What's going on, guys? I am here projecting stats for next year's season between Mika Zibanejad and Sidney Crosby for the 2021 NHL season. Now, last season, we had Sidney Crosby injured and only played 41 games, but he was on pace for around 31 goals, I believe, 32 goals or something like that. Um, but what I did is to find these projected stats is I used the most recent season as a weight of 65%, in the season prior, 2018 to 2019 season, is the second weight at 35%. Now, I think recency has a little bit more value than the seasons before, um, but especially these last two seasons because there was a huge change in the difference between goalies from then and now. It's much tougher for goalies now because their paddings have been reduced. So goalies are struggling a little bit more, and that's why there's been a goal uptick. There's no more Jamie Benn 87 point season leaders. No one, or 89, whatever point total below 90 he had. Um, it's just not happening anymore. And I want to compare these two players because I've seen Sidney Crosby ranked ahead of Mika Zibanejad in these very early rankings. Now, I tend to disagree with a lot of what they've been saying about how Mika Zibanejad is definitely way worse than Sidney Crosby, or some people putting Mika Zibanejad anywhere between 19 and 35 in the rankings. Now, I heavily disagree with that, and I have stats to prove it. I put a weight of what last year's stats were. So Mika Zibanejad just exploded last season. He had a total of 41 goals in 57 games. That is insane. He was on pace to have like somewhere near a 60 goal season. But so what I did is I waited after waiting this season and the season before that. He played 82 games last season, so I think it's a little bit more efficient. But he also did not have Artemi Panarin playing with him, who was one of the best playmakers in the entire game, and I think that's what improved Zibanejad's goal total. Now, the New York Rangers are an offensive dynamo. They're going to be an offensive team this year just as much as they were last year. Pittsburgh Penguins, on the other hand, I think they're the same exact team. I don't think they're improving at all. I think they're actually maybe getting worse because they're not doing anything. But Sidney Crosby, based off the weighted average and everything, even though he only played 41 games, it's a very small sample size, so take it for granted. But it was kind of near his goal totals for the season before. I mean, he was on pace at 39% of games he was scoring a goal, and the season before that it was 44%. But with Mika Zibanejad, it was a humongous change, almost double actually. 36% of games he would score a goal in 2018 to 2019. This season, 72% he was scoring a goal. 72% of games. That's incredible. Like, on pace to score 72% of games. If you scored one goal in 72% of the games, that is on pace for somewhere around 60 goals, which would be the league leader by far. That's incredible. I think him and Ovechkin tore it up this season. Very big surprises, especially Zibanejad, because he had 72-point season before that, and that was still very remarkable for him. But ever since that padding change, everything, like, people's goal totals have been going up. So certain people have been doing really way better. Leon Draisaitl has had a 20% shooting percentage the past two seasons on average. But the season before that, it was like 12%. This season he had, I think, 21%. The season before he had 19%. Still really high. And I don't think that's going to change that much. He hasn't been a volume shooter at all. But anyways, it's between Mika Zibanejad and Sidney Crosby. So I don't think that Mika Zibanejad is actually going to get 49 goals. This is just what I mathematically calculated, weighting 65% of last season and weighting 35% of the season before that, because I think there's going to be a little bit more regression from Mika Zibanejad. When someone hits that high peak, you can't really, it's hard to maintain that. So I think he'll probably have goal totals between like 45 and 46 goals a season, but I think his assists should be around the same. It's like 45 to 47 assists with that offensive team that they are. They're going to be. They've got Tony DeAngelo on the point. They've got Alex Lafreniere coming in. They got Capo Caco is going to be improved from this past season, and then they got Artemi Panarin. It's just going to be a deadly offensive team in general. Now, I have his plus minus higher than Crosby's as well. So if you're in the categorical leagues, he's got Sidney Crosby beat by, Sidney Crosby I have him in negative 3.8, and then I've got Mika Zibanejad at 4.2 plus minus. Obviously it's not going to be exactly that, but that's an estimate. Hockey's never defined mathematics. So if you really want to pick Sidney Crosby over Mika Zibanejad, just go ahead, do it. But I think that Mika Zibanejad actually has a bigger chance to get more fantasy value this season because his plus minus is going to be really high because he's got such an offensive minded team. But his penalty minutes will probably be the same around Sidney Crosby. I think this is pretty accurate, the penalty minutes at least. And then his shooting should be a lot higher than Sidney Crosby as well. He should be shooting a lot more than Sidney Crosby. I have him 57 shots, 221 shots for Sidney Crosby, and 277 shots for Mika Zibanejad. So Mika Zibanejad is going to win that total, and he'll win the goal total as well, almost undecisively. He will definitely have more goals than Sidney Crosby this season if they play the same amount of games. Given that, injuries can happen to anyone. Let's move on to hits. I want to also talk about hits. Is that I see Mika Zibanejad hitting way more often than Sidney Crosby. I have him getting 95 hits. This season they both had lower hit totals, but last season before that, Sidney Crosby had around one hit a game, and then Mika Zibanejad had 1.6 hits per game. So I have Mika Zibanejad ahead of Crosby in that category as well. And then in block shots, Mika Zibanejad is going to be around double the total of Sidney Crosby, and that's been consistent. That's been accurate. So that block shots and hits will both go to Mika Zibanejad, and same thing with shots on goal. So if you're in a categorical league and you really want a player up top, I would go Mika Zibanejad over Sidney Crosby, unless you really need the assists, or if you just don't believe in Mika Zibanejad, then you can always go Sidney Crosby. But I think he's more accurate prediction for who's going to be the better player.